Hi guys, welcome back to Hot Girl Evolving. Today I'm here with Nat Taumberger.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you because obviously we did the To Connect and To Ground facial.
Yes.
And when I posted it, everybody was like, what is this? Like, how does it work? So for somebody like asking those types of questions, how would you describe the session that we did together?
So the session that we had was a facial with energy work. So throughout the facial, we're really grounding all of your energy, realigning all of your energy systems in the body and just making sure that all of your fragments are back with you. And then we do this energy work while you've got the mask on, and that's where we're accessing the subconscious mind and being able to access what's there that's holding you back or you're not able to process.
Yeah. And it's interesting because after our session, you told me like, oh, you're going to feel it for a couple of days. And I was just telling you how I've had this like inkling to constantly be in nature. And like, I've been just journaling and reading my book. And like, I sat in the park for like 2 hours and like, was so connected to my emotions. Like I was just like crying in public. I'm like, people probably think I'm crazy. But it was just like, I really felt like the effects of it, like everything surfacing and kind of like wanting to release those emotions.
Yeah, that can definitely happen because we're starting to pull those threads of the subconscious. All of that has been trapped for a long time, and it's starting to allow awarenesses to come up, emotions to be processed, so it doesn't have to hold you back anymore.
Right. Yeah. And I was telling my friend how you told me like, oh, we like pinpointed that loss of self-love was like at my birth, and I like shared that story with her, and she was like, wow, that's crazy to think that like we have all these like traumas that are like inside of us that probably happened in a childhood that we don't even remember. So like we can't even begin to process something because
exactly,
we didn't even know it happened.
Yeah, didn't even know it existed.
But the second you told me, like, you know, I started crying because it was like you had like unlocked something in my subconscious. I was like, whoa, I have been like feeling that for so long to like be able to understand it and like process it now and let it go.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what is so powerful about this work. It's like you may not know a story that you're carrying, but when it comes up as an awareness, it's like your soul knows, your body knows that it's true. And then you can start to sort of, reflect on your whole life and be like, wow, that has really set me up for everything that I've experienced.
So that was an amazing facial, and I will be back, and everybody needs to do it. Okay, so now kind of just going into like your practice. When and how did you start this practice? Like how did you get the name in hand and then like start to build clients?
Yeah, so it has been a journey.
Yeah.
You know, I was definitely off my soul path for most of my life, right? And it usually takes something fairly big for people, like a big life event, for them to stop and reflect and be like, I need to change my life.
Right.
And that's what happened to me. And I had a really big breakup.
It'll always be the breakup.
It's always the breakup, you know? And I was at a point that I needed to fix myself. I don't like the word fix, but I needed to help myself. Otherwise, I was just going to continue down this path that wasn't serving me anymore. And so I leaned really heavily into the holistic world of healing. Yeah. I didn't want to go down the medication route. It wasn't right for me.
Right.
And so I started to find practitioners that I resonated with and really believed in what they did. And then I just found that the results were incredible. I started to really delve into the traumas that were underlying in this breakup and why I was there and why it needed to end and why I ended up feeling like this after it. And it was through COVID as well.
Yeah, I think COVID was a big, I was like, we had a lot of time to sit and think and transform.
Yeah. And so I wasn't able to be with family or friends. I was really isolated and I really leaned heavily on my practitioners. They were my safe space. They were the people who saved me, really. Yeah. And through that, I was like, I need to do this. I need to help people how they have helped me. Right. I was a beauty therapist back in the day. Yeah. And I really loved connecting with people and through facials. And throughout the years, I've been like, a little nickel being like, I could do facials. Yeah. Oh, no, who wants to come to me for a facial? So I just kept brushing it off.
It's interesting how we'll like make that quick decision and just shut it down. But really now you've like unlock this whole new potential.
Yeah, and so the nurturing touch of a facial, that connection with someone, it's like, I feel like it's a safe space for someone to just drop into themselves.
Right.
And then adding the element of that energy work that my practitioners were doing for me, I just thought it was a transformative.
So that's crazy. So you
treatment.
were doing facials before, or beauty therapists? Like, what do beauty therapists do?
A beauty therapist is facial, waxing, all of
Okay,
that
so
sort of
you were
stuff.
doing. Oh, wow,
so when
so
I was in my early 20s,
wow,
I
that's
did
crazy.
that.
So you kind of just like integrated.
Yeah, and I hadn't done it for years. Like 10 years, I was an office manager and a PA.
Wow, yeah.
So completely different world.
Yeah.
Kinesiology is a big practice, and I have done my Touch for Health, which is sort of the beginning of kinesiology, that first element, and it's based on traditional Chinese medicine. So the belief is that everything that we've gone through in this life, every emotion, every event, every trauma that we haven't processed, gets stored in the body, in the organs, and in the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So there's this technique called muscle testing, where we can access the subconscious mind. So your muscles respond in a yes/no answer.
Okay.
And so you can access the subconscious mind by just asking, is my name Natalie?
Yeah.
And it will say yes, and it
Okay.
will lock, and it will say no if
That's so
I'm lying,
interesting.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
unlock. And so you can get a yes/no response. And then throughout the sessions, you can just ask any questions that you wanted to
Talk
work
about,
on,
yeah, yeah.
talk about, and find the truth,
Right.
or where it's stored in the body, those root causes,
Yeah.
and then release those emotions through pressure points in the body.
Okay.
So I look at the physical body, all of the systems where things are stored in the body. Then I also tune into the energetic systems of the body, so your chakras, your meridian systems, your aura. And then I go more spiritually as well.
Yeah.
So looking at our soul's purpose in this
Right.
life.
Yeah.
Any lessons that we are meant to learn that we're sort of not picking up or on track with. And then I also look at ancestral trauma. So, we can choose as a soul to carry on some of our ancestors' trauma up
Yeah.
to 4 generations back.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy how we do
Yeah,
that.
and so that can be in our subconscious mind as a program that we are trying to work through as
Right.
well. And then as well, I believe we've had past lives, so many, many lives. And throughout our lives as a soul, we choose different lessons in all of our lives. And a lot of the time we fail at those lessons. And so what we do as a soul, we are like, okay, well, we need to revisit this,
And
self-love.
yeah,
we didn't learn it
yeah.
in this life, so
let's try.
now we're going to try it in this life, but in a
Right.
different way,
Right.
potentially a little harder because you failed last time, so we're going to just test you a little bit
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
And so that's what we can access. It's all stored in our subconscious, and that's what we can access through that muscle testing
Yeah.
and find what's underlying in all of our blocks in our life.
Yeah, that's super interesting you say that, because remember the book I told you I started reading, Seed of the Soul? It talks a lot
Yes.
about that. And I feel
Yeah.
like it almost like reading that, like it was talking about how like your soul has like come in as like your personality basically to learn these new lessons.
Yeah.
And I feel like it almost like helps you kind of navigate the things that are happening to you, instead of being like, I get so like overwhelmed by everything and I'm like,
Yes.
oh my God, everything's going wrong. But then like kind of switching that perspective of like, oh, this is like kind of this lesson that like my soul is kind of learning right now, and it makes it like, I don't know, just less daunting and like, oh my God,
100%.
everything is horrible, because
Yeah.
what am I learning from this, or how can I grow from this?
Yeah.
And I feel like everything that has happened in the past where I'm like, oh my God, like why? Then we look back and we're like, because I'm
Yeah.
here now.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much.
Our lessons and our biggest challenges drive us to be on our soul's path, or drive us into the right job or
Right.
experiences, or take us away from the things that don't actually serve us.
Right.
So yeah, if you can get that bird's eye perspective of your life, like sort of climbing a ladder and just looking down and being like, okay, so this is what I'm doing wrong, or I'm not showing up as myself here, and this is what this person is bringing into my life there, and I can understand why they're doing that because of their past. Like,
Right, yeah.
it can sort of, make it feel a bit lighter. It's not going to take away the
Yeah,
pain or the
obviously.
stresses, or, because we are human.
Right,
This
yeah.
is very real for us,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But it can shift a little bit of that perspective.
Totally. What do you think is the common like misconception around your practice, or do you have any like weird things that people like think?
Yeah, I think it's more society, right?
Yeah.
Kinesiology, any holistic practices, hypnotherapy, maybe it's a bit more mainstream now, but you know, things like that. A lot of science, medical world does not believe in it and does not communicate that there is something more to our healing than just getting on this medication or going to see a therapist. You know, therapy is great because it helps you to offload what's happening consciously. But you're not getting to the root of it subconsciously. So, you know, combining the science and that side of things with the holistic and spiritual is so powerful. You're getting through all of those layers. And so that's one thing that I find is challenging, that people are sort of very anti holistic.
Yeah, well, you're either like one
health.
way or the other, which I've always
exactly.
noticed, because I've always been this way from like a young age. I feel like now I'm actually like understanding it more, because I couldn't really understand it as like a 12-year-old. But my parents were always like, what's wrong with this girl? Like, she's so crazy. Like, what is she doing? All these like weird Reiki things. But now, like, it's interesting that I've done so much work, and it talks about this in your book, is like, as you begin to heal yourself, it does begin to heal that like generational trauma, and like your parents won't even realize it, but they'll start to be feeling different.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've noticed such a difference in my parents, and it's like now that I'm continuing to grow, I'm like, okay, well, at least I know this is kind of doing something good. Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. The work that we do on ourselves can definitely trickle down into people in our lives, in our family, and for our future generations as well. It's like tidying up. You know, all those little
loose ends.
Yeah, exactly, that no one else wanted to deal with.
Like, great. So I'm over here crying in the park, like journaling my feelings away.
Exactly, for all of you.
So funny.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your advice to those who might be anxious about trying something like this? Like, how do you get comfortable being vulnerable in sessions like this?
Yeah. Look, it is challenging for people who haven't delved into emotions. It's really scary, you know. Our generation and, you know, your generation have been taught that emotions should be suppressed. They don't have a place. And so, you know, the new generation now is starting to get a bit more of like, okay, let it out.
Let's see.
Let's talk about what's going on. So for us, it's a bit harder to be like, I'm feeling this, I shouldn't feel this, and to talk about it. So, you know, I think it's really important to find people that you feel safe with, a practitioner that is recommended to you, or, you know, friends and family that feel safe to actually be able to explore emotions or what you're experiencing. That's definitely something that is really important. You know, I've had practitioners throughout my years that haven't been right for me at the time. You know, some practitioners come in with tough love, and you know, if you're in a vulnerable place, it's not the right thing sometimes. So definitely finding a practitioner you feel safe with is really important.
It's taken me a long time to finally be like, okay, I feel like I've gotten the hang of it. But it's also interesting, I feel like, once you kind of like build this connection with the universe, and I was like, you know what, like I really want to connect with, like, align with my soul's purpose, and also like heal myself. It was like you'll start to like get answers or like synchronicities that like you won't see unless you like kind of want to see them.
Exactly.
And I was on set and people were talking about like these trauma facials and like how you can release that, and I was like, what are they like, where do I find one? And like I was here already and I googled it and I couldn't find anything that like really resonated with me, and like the next day I walked into Orchard Street and found your card. And I was like, that's so weird how it just like happens, like when you ask for things, like if you're looking for it, you're always getting an answer.
Yeah, definitely. You just have to keep your eyes open and believe and trust.
Trusting, you know, is a huge thing.
Exactly. But also know that it might not come on your timing.
Your term. Yeah, exactly.
Your terms.
Yeah.
You know,
that is the hard part.
Yeah, that is the waiting and be like, come on, is someone out there listening?
That is, it's very interesting. Yeah. It's hard too, but
life is hard.
Hopefully everything will end up fine. It will.
Yeah.
I think the journey of like healing yourself can feel pretty daunting, like we were just talking. For somebody who's yet to explore those deeper parts of yourself, what do you recommend when people like get to a point where they're like, okay, like I got to change my life. Basically,
Yeah.
like how do you begin to work backwards almost?
It's hard to do that on your own.
Yeah.
I think, you know, finding some practices that resonate with you is a good place if you're not ready to see a practitioner.
Right.
You know, meditation, if that's something that you are interested in. Breath work is powerful.
Breath work is so incredible.
Yeah. But these things, you know, are also daunting sometimes for people who haven't started anything. I think, just having a little look at what is out there and, you know, Googling holistic practices if that's what you're interested in, and just reading people's bios or people's experiences, and then being like feeling into what is like making you feel a bit more intrigued or making you go, no.
Yeah.
So listening to your body a little bit and then just following those little breadcrumbs.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think breath work is also like a really good way to start because they kind of like walk you through it, and it's easier when you're like a group of people and it's not as like intimate. You don't have to like share your feelings. But you do get to this like really beautiful meditative state because of the way that you breathe. Like that was always something like when I was like first starting out, like I would do like group meditation classes, breath work, even yoga, because they give you the vinyasa at the end. It's I feel like those are like little ways to start. And then I think also people in the community, like people in communities like that, you'll start to meet like-minded people.
Yeah, and then you chat and you find out what they've been doing. And again, like following those little niggles.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, those are all the questions I had.
Beautiful.
I don't know if you have anything else you want to share with the people.
I just think, you know, life is really hard and we have come down here for a reason. That is my biggest belief.
Same.
And, you know, I think if this is a new concept, like it might be a really new concept for people.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you have any questions, like I'm here to chat.
I'll put her Instagram in the bio.
Yeah, and there's loads of books that are really good. I can send you a few and you can pop it down as well, which like introduce you into the world of spirituality or knowing what's happening with your body and things like that. And then just, I think if anxiety and depression or like anger are really like present in your life and you're not wanting to hold that anymore, just know you don't have to. And there is a real way to move through things. Yeah. And I had anxiety, very bad anxiety for a long time. And I got told by a doctor, you're just going to always have this now. And that's terrifying.
Right.
But knowing that if you're ready to do the deep work, it will be hard, it will be scary. Yeah. But so rewarding. Right, definitely. You can move through it and heal and move towards a life that you dream of.
I think that's the biggest thing. I'm sorry to cut you off. No. I'm working towards is like getting a hold of like the anxiety for me, because I feel like sometimes I get into places where I'm like, okay, this is like too much, like I can't even control. But I feel like the most grounded, like in Australia always, just because of like it's such a different lifestyle than I'm used to. So it's like trying to figure out how I can like take the things I've learned and like integrate it into like my new life. Like if I do go back to like a big city, like not losing that sole purpose. Yeah, and that is really hard as well. It's like, you know, when you've moved out of home and then you end up at home for like a holiday. Suddenly I'm back to that old version.
Yeah, and that used to trigger me a lot. You know, I lived in London and coming back to see my parents, I was like, I'm a 15-year-old girl now.
Like, literally. That's how I feel.
But when you start doing that healing work, that childhood inner work, going back now, it's not triggering and it's so powerful, and I thought it would just be my life forever. Right. And that's the same for you, you know, if you just keep healing those wounds, releasing those emotions, going back to
it's not going to bring you back there.
Yeah, you can hold your power because you know who you are and
I think
you're
that's
confident
the
in
thing
that.
I'm trying to
and it's a big journey.
Reclaim my power and hold it and not let like other people's perceptions kind of like be able to say one thing and suddenly I'm back like, oh God, am I making the right choice? Or did I do, you know?
And look, we will always go in and out of that space because we're human. And other people's thoughts and feelings about us is important to us essentially. But it's being able to be like, come out of that situation, sit with yourself and be like, does that actually resonate with me and my intuition and my soul, what they said, or can I just let that go? Yeah. But it's all a learning.
I know it's a long journey, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna help me get there with my continued facials.
100%.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Such an honor.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
See you later.